All right, here it is, week 16, and we're talking the wasteland that is the fantasy football tight end position. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Today we're talking about some tight ends, the football kind, and trying to see if we can find anybody that we can put in our lineup and kind of have a good feeling about it, right? Really, there's like 4 tight ends in football that we don't mind putting into our fantasy football lineups. And then after that, you're just like, I guess so. I mean, there's not a whole lot of consistency anywhere in this position this year. But we're going to do our best to see if we can label out the top 15 tight ends here for week 16. Try to help you win your fantasy championship or get you to the championship next week. Hopefully everybody's having a great week out there. Really looking forward to next season. So if this is your last week, don't go leaving. We have tons of content year-round on this channel. Stay subscribed. Looking forward to talking to you guys all year long. But now, let's talk about some tight ends. All right, number 1 is really no surprise, right? It's still Travis Kelce. I mean, he's coming off of a bad game. A bad game for him was 7 catches for 61 yards still. He's still one of the top tight ends in football, even when he puts up a bad game. That's how weak this position is in general. Now he gets a matchup against the Seattle Seahawks, who last week gave up a combined 112 yards and a touchdown to the tight ends of the San Francisco 49ers, both Selleck and Kittle. Definitely a decent matchup. It's Travis Kelce. I shouldn't have to sell you on him. I highly, highly doubt you have any better options at this point. Number 2 is the aforementioned George Kittle of the San Francisco 49ers. Another one of these guys coming off of a bad week. But his bad week, 3 catches for 51 yards, still 8 fantasy points in PPR leagues. Not horrible when you consider the position. He's still right there on the heels of Travis Kelce, one of these must-start guys every single week due to the volume he gets. Now, does it worry me a little bit that Selleck was involved? Not so much. I mean, George Kittle has been such a big part of this offense all year long. I'm really not too worried about Garrett Selleck all of a sudden coming in and taking targets away from him. It is, like I said, not the easiest of matchups, but they are going up against the Chicago Bears, who are easier to throw on than they are to run on. So I do expect George Kittle to still be involved in this game plan all throughout the game. Right now, the Bears giving up right around 10 fantasy points a game to opposing tight ends. However, have not allowed a touchdown to an opposing tight end since week 6. It's still a solid defense, still a tough matchup, but you're still going to roll George Kittle out there in your lineup. Keeping the streak alive, going for another guy who disappointed last week, but has still been one of the top tight ends in all of football all season. It's Ebron of the Indianapolis Colts. He's coming off a whole 1 catch for 8 yards. A whole lot of nothing. By far his worst game of the season, but he's still involved in this offense. It's not like there was another tight end out there taking all the snaps, all the targets, getting all the receptions from him. That's not how it is. It was a bad game for Ebron. Came at a bad time. It was against a difficult Dallas defense. Now he gets the 17th ranked defense of the New York Football Giants, giving up on average right around 12 fantasy points a game. They've given up 2 touchdowns to opposing tight ends over their last 4 games. Definitely a team where I can see Eric Ebron being utilized against. I expect Andrew Luck to get him more involved in the game plan. This could be something where they lean a little bit heavier on Eric Ebron, because there could be some struggles on the outside with T.Y. Hilton. Just another thing to keep in mind, they're going to throw the ball a lot in Indianapolis. We already know that. Eric Ebron is still a great play. Not many options better than him, just due to his touchdown upside alone. Right now, he's tight end 3. Number 4, we're keeping the struggle bus going, right? Last week, another struggling game for Zach Ertz. Only 3 catches for 22 yards. And I was a little afraid of this last week. In last week's tight end video, I said, listen, Ertz is not a Foles guy. He's just not. And he really wasn't in that game. Do they need to change that going forward? Possibly. They really need to get him more involved in this game plan. Now they're going to play against the Houston Texans defense, which is ranked 26th against opposing tight ends, giving up on average over 14 points a game. So this is a good matchup for Zach Ertz to get back on the right path. There's not a whole lot of other options after these top 4. If you have them, you're starting them. You're crossing your fingers. You're hoping for another big day for Zach Ertz. All right, this struggle bus is getting ridiculous. All these tight ends have just had horrible weeks last week. Are we starting to see a little bit of a trend here? Coming in number 5, Jared Cook of the Oakland Raiders. He only had 2 catches for 23 yards. In the 2 games prior to that, he'd had over 7 catches and 100 yards in both those games. Then he comes out against a weak Bengals defense, puts up 2 for 23. Not exactly what you're looking for, but he has another great matchup this week, going up against the Denver Broncos, who are on average giving up over 14 points a game to opposing tight ends. 2 weeks ago, that's when George Kittle went absolutely crazy against these guys. It's possible that Jared Cook has that same type of upside. He's a big part of that offense. Well, at least he should be a big part of that offense because there's not a whole lot of other big play options in Oakland. I still like Jared Cook for the ceiling that he has, and he's a relatively safe floor most weeks. Right now, got him at tight end 5. Number 6, Evan Engram of the New York Football Giants, somebody who over the past 2 weeks has put up over 70 yards, which is a plus, especially in this wasteland of a tight end position, and it's both been without OBJ. Now, there's a chance that Odell misses again this week. If that's the case, more targets going Evan Ingram's way. Last week, against the Tennessee Titans, put up 8 catches for 75 yards, one of the top tight ends for the week. Also one of his best games of the year, and it really wasn't that great. However, if OBJ is out again, now they get the 22nd ranked defense of the Indianapolis Colts, giving up on average over 13 points a game to opposing tight ends. Haven't given up a touchdown, though, since week 8. They're more of a bend but not break type defense against these tight ends, and I still think Evan Engram has that higher upside, that big play potential, and the increased target volume with possibly no Odell Beckham. Right now got him as tight end 6. Number 7 is going to be David Njoku of the Cleveland Browns. Kind of been disappointing here the past couple weeks. However, he faces the Cincinnati Bengals this week. The same Cincinnati Bengals defense which he faced back in week 12, where he had 5 catches for 63 yards and a touchdown. And I kind of see history repeating itself here. They're going to be at home in Cleveland. Hugh Jackson's going to be on the opposite sideline. They're really going to want to stick it to him there in Cleveland. That's why I like so many of the Browns' offensive players this week. And David Njoku is no different. Right now I have him at tight end 7, and the Cincinnati Bengals defense is one that can still be had easily by the tight end, giving up over 14 points a game. Great matchup. Looking for that extended revenge game, if you could say that. David Njoku has some high upside. Got him as tight end 7 here this week in week 16. Next up at number 8 is the touchdown or bust Cameron Brate, who last week did a whole lot of nothing. Had 1 catch, just 1 for 9 yards. Not a whole lot to be excited about, but at this point you're looking for that upside, and he has the touchdown upside going up against the Dallas Cowboys, who are giving up on average over 13 points a game to opposing tight ends. They've given up 2 touchdowns in their last 4 games to tight ends. And I can really see Dallas being efficient and effective in this game on the offensive side of the football. If Dallas can continue to score points, it's going to force Jameis to continue to have to throw all 4 quarters. If they can get in the red zone, his top target, Cameron Brate. Here's to hoping for a touchdown or 2 from Cameron Brate this week, because if he doesn't get it, it'll probably be another disappointing week just because he doesn't see the volume to be one of these weekly guys that we can just trust for a safe floor. Number 9 is going to be Trey Burton of the Chicago Bears. A lot of people still hating on Trey Burton, calling him a bust and thinking he didn't really do what he was supposed to. He's still tight end 7 right now in PPR leagues, has 6 touchdowns on the year, so he's not playing horrible. He just doesn't have crazy, huge, high numbers. And it's a difficult matchup for him now this week. The San Francisco 49ers defense against opposing tight ends is not bad. Right now they're ranked 5th in the league, giving up just over 8.5 points per game. A very solid defense. In fact, they haven't allowed over 50 yards receiving to an opposing tight end since week 10. Definitely a solid defense in San Francisco. However, now that hashtag Mitch Magic is back under center, Burton is one of his favorite targets. He's involved in the red zone, and I think Burton's numbers kind of took a little bit of a hit when Trubisky missed some games there due to injury. Still a solid play, still a solid tight end. Have him right now at number 9 for the week. Number 10 is going to be Austin Hooper, the Atlanta Falcons, somebody who was really dealing through some injuries last week during the game. Some injuries that may have been a little bit more severe than they were actually reporting earlier in the week. He didn't even record a catch in the game. Now it seems like he's starting to get back on track, but pay attention to the injury reports. There's a chance that he could be limited again this weekend, and if he is, you may want to pass right over him and go to the next guy that you have available. It is a great matchup for him, though. The Carolina Panthers give up on average almost 15 points a game to opposing tight ends. Not a bad matchup, but we just got to make sure he's healthy going into the weekend. Like I said, pay attention to those reports. Austin Hooper right now is number 10. Number 11 is going to be Gronk of the New England Patriots. Now, this guy has been a huge disappointment, right, to a lot of people who drafted him early this year. And it's clear he's just not 100% healthy. He's out there trying to battle through injuries, but he just doesn't look like the same player that he has in the past. Now he's going up against the Buffalo Bills defense, which he played against back in Week 8, and they held him to 3 catches for 43 yards. It's a solid defense again in Buffalo. Right now, the number 2 defense against opposing tight ends, allowing only 7.5 points per game to opposing tight ends. difficult defense, not 100% healthy, and an offense that is full of weapons for Tom Brady to spread it around to. Gronk is a little bit of a risk this week. That's why I have him all the way down at number 11. Number 12 is Vance McDonald of Pittsburgh Steelers. Last week, 2 catches, 13 yards, but saved it with a touchdown. And he's kind of maybe one of these safe floor guys. He's right around in that 5 to 9 point range that you can kind of count on a weekly basis. And once you get to this point of the rankings, you're looking for some sort of consistency and some type of a floor just to make sure you don't go out there and lay a goose egg. Vance McDonald next on the list. It is a difficult matchup, though, against the New Orleans Saints. They're ranked 6th against opposing tight ends. However, the last 2 weeks, they've given up 3 touchdowns to opposing tight ends. So there is upside there for Vance McDonald, somebody who's going to see right around 5 targets a game, and that's about all you can ask for at this point of the rankings. I got him right now this week at number 12. All right, the last 3, we're just looking for upside right here. So the number 13 tight end is going to be Gerald Everett of the Los Angeles Rams. Last week, 5 catches for 46 yards. Now, the Arizona Cardinals defense on paper is pretty good against opposing tight ends, only giving up right around 8 points a game, haven't allowed a touchdown since week 11. But in this offense for the Los Angeles Rams, which they really need to get going, in a game in which Todd Gurley could be limited or maybe not even play, there are tons of other options out there. Patrick Peterson will be matched up with the top wide receiver. Still unclear whether that's going to be Woods or Cooks. Right now, it seems kind of like maybe Robert Woods for the Los Angeles Rams. If that's the case, Gerald Everett could see some more opportunities, some more single coverage on the outside and across the middle to hopefully allow him to break a big play. He's done it before. He's had some good games in the past. He's very explosive, just doesn't see volume. If he can get a few opportunities this week, I like his chances against the Arizona Cardinals as a huge boomer bust type play right now at tight end 13. Number 14 is going to be Chris Herndon of the New York Jets, and he's another one of these guys who has a really low ceiling, but he's got a decent floor. He's averaging right around 6-7 points a game. Not great, but not horrible. Got a matchup with the Green Bay Packers this week. It's a difficult matchup, the 7th-ranked defense against opposing tight ends. However, last week against Chicago, they gave up 6 receptions, 75 yards, and a touchdown. Chris Herndon is somebody who will be involved in the offensive game plan week to week. He's going to see right around 5 to 8 targets a game, and if they can get in the red zone, he's one of their top targets there. Also, they just have to get there, do the New York Jets. He has upside. He has somewhat of a safe floor, about as safe as you can get right now for tight end 14. All right, lastly at tight end 15, winging a prayer, going with Kyle Rudolph of the Minnesota Vikings. A huge, huge disappointment this week. However, he's been averaging right around 7 fantasy points a game, trying to get that safe floor once again. Last week against Miami, only 3 catches for 23. Hasn't had more than 3 catches in a game since week 12. But he does have that upside. He has that touchdown potential. He just doesn't have a whole lot of it. But let's be realistic. Right now, we're down the list at tight end 15, and there's no other names down there that are any safer than Kyle Rudolph at this point.